Hello and welcome to the Food for Thought series, where we'll be sitting down with current thought leaders in the data and analytics space to offer you a valuable insight into how they run their practices and their experiences as well. In today's mini interview, we'll be sitting down with Krzysztof, who is the analytics director at Delivery Hero, and discussing how he has built out his team from scratch. So hello, Krzysztof. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Great. So I know about your background a little bit and how you got to where you are with Delivery Hero, but could you tell our audience a bit about your role and what you do for the business?
Yeah, so my role is Director of Analytics. I'm working in Delivery Hero Central team, and I'm responsible for the vendor side of analytics. So to be specific, I'm working on the restaurant side. We are a central team, which means we are gathering data and analyzing and using data from all the entities around the world for Delivery Hero.
Amazing, amazing. And I suppose we spoke around a few topics of what you'd like to discuss in this series today, but one that really seemed to come across in the previous meetings is how you build out how you have built out the data team at Delivery and how you've got the team to where they need to be today. So when you joined the business, what would you say are the key topics that you had to resolve before getting into hiring?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. And I would say my situation was a little bit specific. So when I joined the business, the team did not really exist. So I was building the team from scratch. But obviously, before jumping into building a team, you have to have some considerations. And I would say my thinking is, do not jump into actions before you understand. And with data, there is a lot of understanding to be done. So first of all, I would say the most important probably for building a data team is understanding the stakeholders and understanding the needs of stakeholders. So what does the business need and how does the business can get value from the data team altogether? Because ultimately the data is a broad topic, right? So you can have multiple appliances of data from, I don't know, business analytics, data analytics, product analytics, data science, and so on, right? So there are different applications. And then getting to have this understanding tremendously helps, right? Secondly, the company exists for many years already, which means you have to understand the status quo. So what is the data structure? What are the databases used? What are the tables? What do they contain? And what do they not contain? If the data is ordered or messy or whatever is there. The same goes for, I don't know, reporting suite, dashboarding suite, any processes around data engineering and so on. And lastly, before jumping into hiring, I would say it's actually important to have a vision where do you want to be, right? Because if we don't have it, then it's just a random picking people, which is not the greatest option.
And I suppose there has to be, I know you've talked about a few things there, but there has to be a strategy put in place, I suppose, when it comes to any sort of recruitment, really. Where would you put your focus first?
Where to put the focus? I think before going into hiring, having a plan, where would you like to have a team in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, or even longer, depending on the company. I think it's essential because sometimes we lose it. We are saying, okay, I want to hire a new data analyst or new product analyst. Okay, but what's the grander vision? And without it, it's a little bit tricky to build a team in a proper way. As an example, I would say, for me, for example, I consider myself a generalist. If I'm a generalist, I want to hire first specialists because they will allow me to build the foundation of the data analytics faster. If you are a specialist, I would consider at the very beginning, you would like to hire some generalists to help you craft the vision and craft overall let's say systems and processes for the team. So this is the first thing. Second thing where I think the focus needs to be put is actually on the recruitment process itself, right? Because again, jumping into recruitment without having the process set up is not really an easy way, and recruitment is usually a little bit difficult. Fortunately, Delivery Hero, I think, has those processes figured out already, so they are fairly stable. And thirdly, I would say try to keep your team balanced in terms of skill set, in terms of personality. And by balanced, I mean also diverse. So don't go very narrow one direction, but be broad in who are you looking for, and also be persistent in getting top talent. It's not easy to hire the best people, and sometimes you can feel, okay, I have just 5 candidates, none of them seem very good, but then, okay, I need to figure something out. But I would try to be persistent and say, okay, maybe we need to refine the ad, maybe we need to take a look on the skill set needed, or maybe we just need to broaden our search and look for people that are really, we are feeling that they are really fitting the team, rather than getting random people and hoping that okay, they might fit to the team or not.
It makes sense. And I suppose some may say that data engineers are the core part of a data analytics team. However, I suppose every person has a part to play to be adding value. What would you say is, or what would you see is the most important? It's a very difficult question.
I would fully agree that data engineers are really the core part, because without proper data, there is no proper analytics, right? So garbage in, garbage out, as they say. But ultimately, we are living in a world where big data is much more proliferated, and there is more and more data. So we have more sources and we collect more data. And with this, I would say both data engineering roles and analytics engineering roles are becoming more important, because it's not so easy to come up with a good insight, or with a good dashboard, or with a good report or data product altogether, if the data is not properly processed. And by properly processed, I mean there should be layers of data that actually allow different groups of users to use this data efficiently, reliably, and so on. Ultimately, I think what is the most important thing in terms of data engineering is not only data engineering, I would say overall data roles, is what we are trying to build is the trust for data, right? Trust towards analytics community, trust towards data science community, but especially trust towards product managers and business users altogether, right? So if they trust the data, then they can trust our insights, they can trust our recommendations. But the trust is a very tricky thing, right? Because you need to consistently keep reliable data source. You need to keep a reliable process that is not breaking. The data is not missing. The data points are not contradicting each other, and so on. So it's not as easy as they say. But I would say this is the ultimate goal.
Okay, and I suppose we both know recruitment can have its flops. Not all candidates are successful. We've spoke previously that those data engineering roles can be a struggle, which I have noticed with a number of organisations, but the technical space is evolving, and you could be looking for a niche skill set. So what other struggles would you say you found when it's come to hiring?
I would say there's many of those, and this is not only for data engineers, right? Data engineering, I would say, is specific because, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit proliferating, and there is a lot of data engineering openings versus not so many candidates with a specialist skill set. So this is sometimes a bottlenecking process, especially in some regions. But altogether, recruiting for all data positions has its struggles and also has its flops. I would say there are a couple. One, and maybe very obvious to me at least, but maybe not to some candidates, is that the technical roles usually require the technical checkups. Some candidates try to cheat on this, right? On those tests and so on, right? And you can cheat in different ways. You can either get your friend, or you can just Google internet or whatever. I would say it's just a waste of time for both of the parties to cheat, because first of all, I would say it's fairly easy to detect, especially if you are copying the code from somewhere. And secondly, ultimately, if you don't know what you are doing, it will come very obvious in your next 1 to 3 months in your probation period. So maybe you will land a job if you are passing through next stages, which is also difficult because there are obviously technical interviews after the test, right? So in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense. That's the first one. Secondly is, for some roles, I would say there's two sides. For some roles, there are just so many candidates that it's very difficult to choose. And the reason that there are so many candidates is either the requirements for the role are written in, like, they're just too broad, I would say. And secondly, people are randomly applying to different positions that they may not even be interested in. And I also do believe this is not the greatest strategy. I understand that if you are looking for a job, you are trying to get as many interviews as possible, but ultimately landing a job that you are not really interested in is just a waste of time for both of the parties, right? There's also other side of it, which is the roles that there are just not enough candidates, right? And then it's mostly on recruiter side to step back and think it over a little bit and think, okay, maybe I have just put too strict requirements. Maybe it's better to broaden it a little bit, broaden the search and get better pipeline of candidates, and then maybe one or two skills can be taught on the job, right? Can be upskilled. I'm a big believer that in general, it would be great if we can teach candidates and grow candidates with the company, right? So ideal situation is you have a candidate and he learns on the job and then he grows with the job, right? So he acquires new skill set, he trains and so on. This is unfortunately not always possible because for some roles you are, for example, you're looking for an engineer, you're looking already for a senior or staff engineer because you need to have the job done from day one. But overall, I think the team should be balanced. So if you have the possibility to, hire more junior people and then train them, I think it's a great opportunity both for the company, but also for the people who are joining the company because they have a feeling that there is growth ahead of them. Obviously, for senior engineers and for staff engineers or for senior analysts, the growth path should be there as well, right? But obviously the expectation is different. If you are hiring a senior person, you are expecting, okay, this person can be performing from day one, which is also a tricky thing because usually every company has its own culture, every company has its own problems, and there needs to be both sufficient time for onboarding, but also sufficient support during the onboarding. So having this expectation that the person will be producing a code from day one is a little bit tricky because ultimately I think we should allow this time for a person to sink in the company culture, to get to know people, to get to know the standards, to get to know the code, and then only then start bringing value to the company.
No, 100%. And I suppose when reflecting back on the team that you have already in place, what were the qualities that they showcased where you knew that they had to be a part of Delivery Hero?
That's a very good question, and this is the question I'm always asking myself when I'm interviewing a candidate, right? And it's also not an easy answer, right? Because people are very different. So first of all, Delivery Hero altogether is a very international company, which I think is great. And I would, if you have the possibility as a recruiter to do that, I would very much advise to bet on diversity and having people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences, and so on. Because I think it brings enormous value to the team itself. It stimulates a good discussion, it stimulates creativity, and it stimulates viewing a problem and solution from different perspective, which I think is always beneficial. For Delivery Hero, I would say this part comes naturally because actually we are hiring internationally, and because of that, the pool of candidates is very diverse, right? So this is the first thing I would mention. The second thing is probably whenever I get a new person in the team, I would like to understand what this person actually is bringing new to the team, right? So it's not enough to, I don't know, be good at the test and the interview, but I would really appreciate if there is a new skill set that can be utilized in the team, maybe utilized at work, but also this is a way for teaching, for learning other team members, right? So if there is a diverse skill set, there is a chance for other team members to grow into this specific skill that this one person has. It can be different stuff. So for example, if we are talking about I don't know, we are talking about data analysts, it's nice if there's some, I don't know, ML or engineering background behind it. Or if we are talking about the product analyst, maybe this product analyst was a product manager before, or maybe he did some projects that are not strictly product analysts, but did something else, which is actually very useful and can be also utilized in our organization, right? So I would say this is the second thing. And the last but not least, I'm a big believer in communication and teamwork, right? And this is like, I'm not sure if forgotten skill, but I do believe that many candidates believe that the skill set and the technical side of the skill set is enough to get to the company. For me, knowing that the person will fit in the team and will be good collaborator is very essential, I would say. So probably depending on the organization, but in my organization, this is a very big organization with with quite diverse and large number of stakeholders, which means the communication skills and ability to teamwork is never underestimated, I would say. So I'm looking into this very much, and I think so far so good.
So far, so good. That's good. Good to hear. It's been really interesting to get your insights today on your journey to developing the team you have at Delivery Hero. So probably ask now for potential future candidates and other organizations from this interview, what would you like to be the biggest takeaway from what we've spoke about today?
The biggest takeaway for the candidates, I would say there are a couple of things. I know also from my perspective that, you know, landing a job and looking for a job is very daunting and difficult job itself, right? It can be very demotivating. It can be difficult at times, especially if you are looking for a long time. So I would maybe, not sure if this is related to what I said before, but I would maybe have a couple of advice there to the candidates that are looking for a job, right? So first of all, don't give up and be consistent in your efforts, right? Because I think consistency, resilience is very important in looking for a job. If you are sending, 100 emails and there is a couple of interviews, but out of those interviews, there's nothing, just stay on track, do it on a weekly, daily basis. I know it's a little bit cliche and everyone says it, but there are different reasons for being rejected, right? So candidates take rejection very personally, but sometimes, you apply to the job, but there is another candidate who is already in the last stage and he's actually getting the job, or something changes in the company and the profile is suddenly changes, or there are freezes, or there is one skill set that is missing. So there can be multitude of arguments why you are getting rejected towards this job, but it's not that you are a bad or you cannot land the job. It's just this particular position at this particular time is not fitting your candidacy, right? So stay on track and keep going. Secondly, what I would say is seek for feedback, right? Especially and I would call it, there are probably two ways to get feedback, right? So first of all, get feedback from recruiters. I would say, especially if you're landing, third, fourth interview for the same position, you are feeling that you are in the last 2, 3, 5 candidates. I think then this is the moment that you can get a valuable feedback. And if you are not getting it directly after the interviews and someone is saying, okay, you have been rejected, still try to come back and ask for the reason, because it can fuel your next search for your job, and I think it could be very beneficial for you. But secondly, also reach to your network, reach to your friends, reach to some forums in getting improvement of your, I don't know, CV or guidance, right? internet is full of people that are really willing to help and have the knowledge and experience to do that. And thirdly, I would say, if you are sending out your CVs, if you are applying to different companies and you are consistently rejected, you are rejected on the first phase, or you are, I don't know, failing the test, you have to step back a little, right? So if you failed 1, 2, 3, 100 times doing the same thing, and you are expecting, doing 101 the same thing, but expecting a different result that you will get accepted, this is the moment that maybe you have to step back and say, okay, maybe my experience and my CV are not really fit for that position, right? Maybe I need to apply for more junior position, or maybe I want to switch. I was product manager before, and now I want to land a senior analyst position. This may not happen. Maybe if you want to switch your path, you want to become analyst, start low. With your knowledge, you will probably get promoted very quickly, but you need to maybe start from scratch, right? Or maybe you were data analyst and also applying already for senior product analyst position is not the best case. So step back and think it over, what to improve. Is it me? Is it my CV? Is it my communication skills or something else? But rather than going over and over with the same approach, just pivot, be flexible a little, and again, be resilient and persistent.
Amazing. I think that's some great advice for candidates out there that are definitely looking for their next role. And thank you for being with us today, Krzysztof. It's been really great to have you on the show and getting your insights. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Take care.